Welcome to the Mortgage Podcast, where we give tactics, strategies, and inspiration to get you to 10 plus loans per month. We talk a lot about how to make a ton of money in mortgage while also being happy and thriving in your personal life. If you want to be a mortgage millionaire, you're in the right place. Hello, my little top producers and future top producers. It's Todd Screama. Welcome back to the Mortgage Podcast, where we work on getting you to 10 loans a month. So this is an awareness thing so that you can do things a little bit differently. There's a lot of confusion sometimes in this world. And I think one of our goals should be to see things as they are, not worse than they are and not better than they are. And that's a mindset that will help us. Now, what does that pertain to today's topic? Well, it used to be for the longest time, people would say, 20% of the people do 80% of the business. Now that number is more 95-5. I think this will change, but I do want you to realize the shift the market's had both in realtors and in lenders. And I want you to understand it so that you can proceed accordingly. I'll start this off with a quick story. I talked to a friend of mine, and he actually goes to my golf club, and he was known as a really good realtor. I've known him for quite a few years, and I just talked to him, and I'm like, hey, got done playing golf. He was at the bar. I was having a beer before I went home, and we just were shooting the crap, as they say. I said, well, how many deals did you do last year? He says, I did 8. I said, Mike, you did 8. 4 or 5 years ago, weren't you doing like 50, 60? And he says, yeah. I'm like, what happened? And he's like, I'm kind of slowing down. The kids are out of the house. College is mostly paid off, and I just don't really want to work that hard. So I was kind of grilling him a little bit. Come to find out, the truth was he was just scared, and he stopped doing all the things he was doing, and he's just not doing that great anymore. Now, his persona, if you were to ask most people, is that he's still closing 50, 60 deals a year because that's how he presents himself. I'm just good at asking questions, and I know how to dig into people, and, I want the truth. So all that to say is this: there's a lot of people that people call on that are no longer doing business. So let me give you some statistics. This is from National Association of Realtors, just came out in January of 2026. There's 1.3 million realtors in America, 1.3 million. 71% did not close a transaction last year. So if you walk into a real estate office and there's 100 realtors in there, 71% didn't close a single deal. 14% closed 4 or between 1 and 4. 14%. I don't want those people. Don't want to call them. Don't want to have coffee with them. Don't want to email them. There's no business there. 7% closed 5 to 9 loans. 4% closed 20 to 29. And 4% closed 30 to 300. So who do you want to call on? 8%. 8% of realtors close 20 or more transactions. 8%. So if I walk into an office of 100 people, I want to find the 8 that did, 20 plus deals and meet with them, because they are real professionals working full time in this business, and they're doing well. And some of them are doing great. I have a friend of mine sold me my last house. He did 68 transactions last year by himself. Has one transaction assistant that he subcontracts with. He does it all. And I want to know him, right? He does a lot of buyers. I want to know him. So those are the people that you want to call on. Now, loan officers. Here's a simple stat. 980,000 licensed loan officers as of November of 2025. 980,000, the same stats, but a little worse. So there was, I want to be careful with stats. They can be confusing. There was 22,000 loan officers out of almost 1 million that closed 8 million or more in loans. Now, we make 1%, 1.25%, 1.5%. So another way of saying that in dollars is 22,000 loan officers made 80 grand or more a year. So that's 2.2%. And that 2.2% is doing over 80% of all transactions. Now, if you don't understand this shift, because those numbers were different in a normal market, but we've had 4 years now of a hard market, and it changes behavior and it creates causes and effects. So my point in this podcast is to have you understand that most of the people you're calling on, you shouldn't call on. Now, that's scary because you're like, Todd, I've been doing this 20 years. I don't want to do a bunch of cold calls. Well, if you feel that way, listen to some other podcasts where I give you advice on how to change that. I do understand call reluctance when you've been in the business a while. It's a normal feeling, and there is a way to overcome it. So
That's a different podcast, but there is a solution. So what do we do with all this? You double check every single person that's on your target list or that you're doing business with, and you find out, are they part of the 8% of realtors that you should be calling on? And either they are or they aren't. Now, if they're not, do I mean, totally get rid of them or take them off your database? Not necessarily, because, some of those realtors you do a deal a year with, okay? But you don't want to spend personal time with them, or if you do see them, you want to see them in a group setting, not at one-on-one lunch. If I'm doing a lunch and learn and I can get 100 realtors there, that's fine. But I'm not going to have 100 lunches with people that don't produce that much. I'm going to save that time for the realtors that are closing 20 plus deals, which is only 8 out of 10. And that is the mentality that works. I'm not saying that you won't get any business from some of those others. You will. But be very careful how you spend your time with them. It's kind of like, I have a friend of mine. She is dating this person. She's got her stuff together, but the person she's dating doesn't have his stuff together. And she won't break up with him. Why? Because it's familiar. Now that's kind of rude to use that metaphor, but it is what we do as humans. Top producers that close 10 loans a month don't operate that way. They're like, I got my stuff together. This person doesn't. I'm moving on. There's a person out there that's got their stuff together and I can work better with. And that's the same thing. It's the same mentality. It's hard to do, but like I tell most people, the hardest decision is almost always the right decision. The hardest decision is almost always the proper decision if you really stop and think about it. So let's make the hard decisions. Let's deal with reality, knowing the little change in 2 or 3 years, these numbers will change again. But for now, it is just how things are, and we have to deal with it appropriately so that you can win. And that's what I want. So if this is helpful to you, please forward it to one person. That's how this stuff spreads. I would prefer that it be a loan officer or a realtor. However, maybe you have a person that is in sales and you want them to hear some of these things. I'm totally fine, of course, with you sharing that stuff because most of this is general business principles that really can apply to almost any business. Okay. So have a beautiful week. I appreciate you listening. As always, go close 10 loans a month. Please go for it. Bye, guys.